Today, we are sharing the results of our 2017 Student and Parent Census. Doing a census is noteworthy on its own. Every 4 to 5 years, we conduct a system-wide student and parent census, which helps the board understand a number of things, including our demographic makeup, students' experience both inside and outside of school, and how students feel about themselves, which is so very important in terms of the learning that goes on in our schools. We are one of the few boards that collects data in this way, and it's detailed data, which allows us truly to inform the work ahead. We see this data as offering three things: a way for students and parents to provide feedback, an opportunity for schools to see exactly how their specific students and parents feel about their school experience, which is so very important because change happens at schools, supported by the system, TDSB. And third, a way to identify and close any gaps in outcomes amongst groups of students as part of our commitment to equity and human rights. The participation of our students and parents in these surveys is crucial to ensure our continued success in terms of service to our students and to ensure that all voices are heard. It's so very important that no one's voice is missing from this. The third census, which is this one, was completed in April 2017 by parents of students in junior kindergarten to grade 6 and students from grades 4 to 12. More than 220,000 people responded, which is amazing. 220,000 people, which is an average response rate of 85 to 94% for students and 63% for parents, giving us an incredible amount of data that we can then draw a comprehensive picture regarding what's required. This helps us know our students best. When we as educators know who our students are, when we listen closely to their needs, we then can provide service that meets those needs. And that's what this is about. So what did the data tell us? First of all, it did tell us very significant demographic information: race, religion, sexual orientation, gender identity, socioeconomic status, which includes family income levels, parent occupation, and parent education. While there has been an increase in the highest income category, still nearly half of our students were from lower income bracket groups. This information offers important insights into what students' lives are like outside of the classroom and what supports we need to offer inside of the classroom to respond. Parents felt overwhelmingly positive about their child's school experience, and they show that the confidence has continued. They feel welcome in their child's school, that rules are applied fairly, that people are respected for their differences. They also felt that their children enjoyed school and that their child got the supports they need. The other areas of the census have a strong focus on well-being and student achievement. The world around us is changing, and well-being is a growing focus, not only here in Toronto District School Board in Toronto, but also the world. As an organization, I think it's important for us to define what we mean when we say, what is the definition for well-being and what are some of the key elements? It includes cognitive skills, critical thinking, problem solving, creativity, the ability to be flexible and innovative. It involves emotional skills, the ability to cope, manage, deal with emotions, recognize emotions. It deals with social skills, building and supporting positive relationships with peers and adults. And it also includes physical components, such as sleep, diet, exercise, and has a connection to the notion of screen time and the impact it is having on our students' physical activity, emotional and social well-being. When students are engaged, when they feel they belong, they feel safe, they feel included, and they have a greater sense of well-being, they learn. That's the foundation. These are connected. And growing evidence demonstrates that well-being and student achievement are truly interrelated. And the reason I'm stressing that is because too often we might think of well-being separate from learning and achievement. This was the first time we'd asked students in grades 4 to 6 to complete the census, and it showed that these students in grade 4 to 6 felt generally good about their school experience. 92% of students felt safe in their classroom, and 75% of them felt that the rules were applied fairly. Overall, these students felt that their school is friendly, welcoming, and they do get the required support and help they need. And 72% said, I like school. They believe their peer relationships are good. Bullying is more prevalent in our younger grades, which I'll speak more about in a minute. And they believe that 1 in 3 students reported that they felt verbally bullied, and that is certainly something that we pay attention to. 9 out of 10 students in grades 4 to 6 felt that their teachers cared about them. Again, another important component. When we look at students in grades 7 to 12, it's important to note that 90% felt safe in their classrooms and in their schools. And I think it's important to emphasize that because sometimes we hear different data, and this coming from our students is pretty clear. 75% felt that rules were applied fairly and that they had positive relationships with their peers. 90% reported that teachers respected their backgrounds, and 86% said that teachers expected them to succeed in school. High expectations are very significant for students' outcomes. As students age through the grades, though, there is a concerning shift that we are noting and we wish to share. Sexual orientation and gender identity has a significant impact on students' feelings of well-being. I think we've heard that before, and this data would suggest it. There was little difference among students' well-being according to the racial data in grade 4 to 6. However, identity does play a bigger role in well-being as students age. Starting in grade 7, a steady decline begins where many students don't feel their school is as welcoming as it needs to be, that they don't feel that they get as much help or support as they need, and they don't feel that they belong. And that is a data set that we are paying very, very close attention to. Though peer relationships remain high, reports of bullying, thankfully, decrease. But there is a shift, it appears from this data, in the relationships between students and adults in their school. And that feeling of not belonging is one that we will continue to work at school level to change. Let me step back for a minute, because obviously we do not do this work in a vacuum. We have studied what's happening globally and locally in our city, as well as our own TDSB data. There is, unfortunately, a global trend in the decline of students feeling connected to their school, a data source that we can find from the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, known as OECD. Students' relationships with their teachers and peers are closely connected to this feeling of belonging. And over the past 12 years, the OECD reports that students' feelings of connectedness at school has been steadily declining. Our data is in line with this, that students, as they get older, feel less and less like they belong. We have to listen to their voices, understand what it means, and change where required. Students in grades 7 to 12 had a decrease in feelings that teachers cared about them. They shared with us that they felt unsupported, and they shared that they need more encouragement. And they said that they weren't as satisfied in their classrooms as they would like. And the data is all in the information that we've shared with you. Interesting, though, our students overwhelmingly reported that teachers had high expectations for their success. And they also reported that they felt a tremendous amount of stress, mostly related to their future and the marks, the academics leading to that future. And I think that it really then becomes our responsibility, but also partnering with post-secondary, trades, college, university, and parents to work together to figure out how to manage the emerging and growing anxiety and stress that our students have reported. Another concerning trend, fewer students are reporting that they are physically active and physically healthy. Eating habits have declined according to their own reflection. Sleep is reduced, and as I said earlier, screen time is increased to the point where some of our students report that they use social media almost constantly. I do want to say, though, that sometimes data like this might make us feel as though we need to step back and say to students, you can't do this or you should do that. But no matter what the age is of the people in this room, we understand that adolescence is a very significant time, and the world we live in is both a physical world and a digital one, and it is our job, partnering with families, to support our students to be healthy. It's an important point I wish to make, because sometimes data like this might simply suggest we have to go backward, where our world isn't. And whenever adults speak about screen time, and then we look at how often we're holding our phones, I think we all understand what I mean. While this data mirrors national and international trends, we must not be deterred from taking responsibility for improvement and meaningful engagement of our students. So what will we do? How will we improve? We do have a newly passed multi-year strategic plan, which includes 3 priorities that speak specifically to this work. Creating a culture for student and staff well-being is one of the pillars. A second pillar is building strong relationships and partners. A third pillar, again, which people don't always understand as being a well-being goal, transforming student learning. And what I mean by that is when students own their learning, when they are able to direct some of that learning, when their learning leads to real-life problem solving and creativity, they're more engaged, leading to greater well-being. There is an acknowledgement and an emphasis that all of this work is interconnected. We must be looking at the full and complete needs of students and talk about and address them in ways that are responsive. So what are our action plans? What are our action plans committing to? In order for us to create inclusive, welcoming, and engaging schools, we must focus our change efforts at school level, 583 of them, where the relationships are, supported by a system that uses data to shine a light on what the issues might be systemically, but realizing in 583 schools, the data is different. And every one of our schools received their own students' data in the spring, so that improvement plans could be informed for this year. We haven't waited for this data to be shared systemically to get the work started in our schools. Often we might think that well-being and mental health issues can only be addressed by those professionals who have that skill. But there are some things we've learned. Welcoming students to our schools is as specific as knowing their names, greeting them in the hallways, ensuring that they have a caring adult, providing space for them to share who they are and what they're worried about, and providing spaces for us to respond. These are very significant and intentional cultural examples, one that you don't need to be a doctor to fulfill. And I say that because, again, too often we hear we need a social worker or a psychologist to manage some of these experiences. Every school in the Toronto District School Board must create a school improvement goal focused on student well-being informed by their students' data. That's another commitment we've made. A third commitment we've made is in our continuing commitment in the Toronto District School Board to equity, anti-racism, and anti-oppression so that we are more inclusive. And what that means is we understand and celebrate and learn the identity of each and every student, his or her history, family, culture, the strengths, the experiences, so that every one of our 250,000 students feels that they have a home in our schools. And that our professional learning that happens throughout the system incorporates these important components of well-being. Because again, when we have a math learning session, there is something called math anxiety. I'm using one example. And why wouldn't we, and we will, embed concepts of well-being in terms of the learning we provide to our staff? We are going to continue with focus groups across the system, because one of the things that data such as this cannot tell us is what are all the nuances underneath. So focus groups are going to happen. We have made a commitment through our action plans to engage parents and guardians in concrete ways to the school improvement process. What that means is sharing the data with our families and then engaging in conversation regarding what that means, listening closely to our parents and guardians who know their children best, and then, of course, bringing the expertise of the educator to the conversation so that focus can be made. Bringing specialized resources closer to the schools, such as social workers, psychologists, and elementary guidance counselors, is something we're doing through our Learning Center strategy, as we call it, which has taken our very large board and has allowed us to work in 4 communities, if you will, all within one board, but focusing those resources in that way. Even though the census that you're seeing the results of happens every 4 years, we also conduct school climate surveys more regularly, and we will be doing that again in 2019, which will provide further information. And we will, of course, partner with our local unions, agencies, and community-based programs such as Toronto Public Health, provincially Mental Health Assist, to enhance our ongoing efforts. There is a lot happening at system level, to be sure, but as I said, school change happens in schools and in classrooms. Principals receive the data. They understand who their students are with their staff. Their students are in front of them to engage in all kinds of rich activities that bring out student voice, and that is our goal. One size does not fit all in the Toronto District School Board. That is why you will not hear from me that all 583 schools are going to work on the following 3 things. We have made a commitment to our principals, and there's some in the room, that is their job to lead what has to happen in their community, and that the system expectation is that a goal emerges out of that. Listening to students' voices and hearing how to meet their needs, not just listening but acting, is the foundation for this. Across the province, we've been speaking about student voice for quite some time. This data will propel us to continue to do more than just listen, but to ensure that the actions we take are meeting what our students are asking for. In summary, this data is an unbelievably valuable tool, and we are so grateful to our students and our parents for participating. With a response rate like this, it means that the data is significant.
Please excuse the interruption. The groups of students have now made their way to the first rotation.
I'll just pause for a minute.
We recognize that they did arrive a little late. However, we are going to try to maintain the schedule. So our first rotation will wrap up at 1:35, and we will have a bell to notify rotations.
The good news is when we do anything in a school, real school things happen, and this is the grade 8 days, so here we go. As I say, in closing, this is valuable information. Students feel very safe in our schools. That is something that is really significant to us. And they feel respected. That is something to be celebrated. And they feel that there are high expectations. Again, evidence suggests that is absolutely necessary for our students to succeed. However, because the overall sense of our older students is that well-being has declined and they feel less supported and encouraged, it provides us a foundation for our work. Through our commitment to each and every student, we will continue to do this work together. This is not adults doing anything to students. We need to work together, and we will strengthen the relationships in the inclusive communities that we expect and create across the Toronto District School Board. Thank you very much for listening to that reflection of a very large data set.